11:47 p.m. Pae Soo-Ho sat behind his mahogany desk, speaking rapid Korean on an encrypted phone. The conversation, a witness elimination, detailed, explicit, deadly. Camera slowly pushes toward Petula standing motionless in the corner, eyes down, cleaning supplies in hand. Pae Soo-Ho controlled Seoul's underworld with 3 rules: trust no one, show no weakness, and never ever let staff hear business. For 6 months, he'd spoken freely around the maid who didn't understand Korean. 6 months of secrets, 6 months of crimes, 6 months of fatal mistakes. Soo-Ho ends the call, dismissive hand wave. In Korean, he muttered, pathetic, Americans hire servants who can't even speak properly. Petula sets down her supplies, walks toward the desk, stops 3 feet away. Then she spoke, perfect Korean, cold precision cutting through the silence like a blade. The witness you just ordered killed. He's already dead. I handled it 2 hours ago. Soo-Ho's face, pure shock frozen in perfect clarity. In that moment, Pae Soo-Ho realized the truth. He had underestimated the wrong woman, and that mistake would change everything. Before we continuing this thrilling story, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Where are you watching from? Like and comment. 6 months earlier, Petula walked into that same mansion for the first time. The interview lasted exactly 4 minutes. Soo-Ho sits in leather chair, barely looking up from his tablet as Petula stands before him. He didn't ask about her experience, didn't care about her background. His head of security had already vetted the references, all perfectly legitimate, all expertly forged. To Pae Soo-Ho, she was simply another piece of furniture waiting to be positioned. Petula speaks in halting, broken English with a heavy accent. She played her role flawlessly, timid, grateful, ordinary, but when his face came into full view under the chandelier light, something shifted. 0.3 seconds. A microscopic pause as her eyes registered his features. Soo-Ho was already looking back at his screen. He noticed nothing. Hearing handshake, Petula bows slightly. Exit. That first week, she became invisible. While he conducted interrogations in the East Wing, she dusted vases 10 feet away. When his lieutenants discussed shipment routes over dinner, she refilled water glasses with mechanical precision. During encrypted calls about territorial disputes, she folded linens in the adjacent room. Petula cleaning while violence unfolds in soft focus behind her. Blood on marble floors, muffled screams through walls, stacks of cash being counted. She learned his patterns. 7 a.m. coffee, black, no sugar. 8:15 departure for morning collections. Lunch alone in his office, doors locked. She existed in his peripheral vision, a shadow that moved when commanded and disappeared when dismissed. Soo-Ho snaps his fingers without turning around. Petula immediately appears with his coat. He never said please, never said thank you. He pointed and she moved. He gestured and she understood. The perfect servant requires no words, no acknowledgement, no humanity. And Petula, she gave him exactly what he expected. Late night, mansion silent. Petula enters the study with cleaning supplies. On day 6, she made her first real move. 11:47 p.m. The same time she'd stand in that same study 6 months later. But on this night, she was still just the maid. Petula photographs, documents spread across his desk with a device disguised as a phone. Her hands move with surgical precision, memorizing positions, replacing everything exactly as found. She worked in complete darkness, muscle memory guiding each movement. 3 minutes, 42 documents, 0 mistakes. She touches her collar, whispers into a hidden microphone. Her words were barely audible, spoken in flawless Korean that had never touched her lips inside these walls. Petula's whisper, I'm in, he suspects nothing. And she was right. Pae Soo-Ho suspected nothing. Not yet, but invisibility is a double-edged sword. The more he failed to see her, the more she saw of him, and what she was learning would change everything. Month 3, that's when the cracks started to appear. Subtle, almost imperceptible. But in Pae Soo-Ho's world, almost imperceptible meant deadly. Petula sets down his morning coffee, Steam rises. Soo-Ho takes a sip, pauses. The temperature was off, not by much, maybe 2 degrees cooler than usual. His eyes flicked to her retreating form. She didn't look back. For 15 seconds he stared at that cup, then he drank it anyway. But he remembered. Days pass. Petula moves through the mansion. Small things began shifting. A pen on the left side of his desk instead of the right. His calendar rotated 45 degrees. Documents stacked in reverse order. Each change so minor that questioning it would seem absurd. But Soo-Ho had survived 2 decades in the underworld by noticing what others dismissed. Soo-Ho enters his study, stops, stares at his desk. His hand drifts toward the drawer where he keeps his pistol. She'd reorganized everything, alphabetically, neatly, efficiently. Any normal employer would be grateful, but Pae Soo-Ho wasn't normal, and gratitude wasn't in his vocabulary, only suspicion. He doesn't draw the weapon. Instead, he pulls out his phone. The test was simple, elegant, ruthless. He left a confidential file open on his desk, details of an upcoming arms transaction, names of corrupt officials, offshore account numbers. Then he left the room and watched through the security camera mounted in the antique clock. Soo-Ho watching his phone. Petula entering the study with cleaning supplies. She saw it immediately. Impossible not to. The file sat there like bait in a trap, pages spread wide, ink still fresh. She moved closer, adjusted her grip on the duster. For 5 full seconds, she stood within arm's reach. Petula cleans around the file without touching it, exits. She never looked at it, not even a glance. Soo-Ho watched the footage 3 times, searching for the moment she'd photograph it, memorize it, betray herself. Nothing, just a maid cleaning a desk. Later, his head of security, Kim, speaks quietly in the hallway. Kim had been with him for 8 years, survived 4 assassination attempts, killed 11 men with his bare hands, and his instincts were screaming. Boss, something feels off about her, the way she moves, too, precise, too aware. Soo-Ho's response is immediate, dismissive. She's a maid, you're paranoid. But even as he said it, his mind catalogued every small deviation. The coffee, the desk, the way she'd passed that test too perfectly, like she knew she was being tested. Night, Petula's quarters, small, sparse room. She stands before a mirror alone. In the privacy of her room, the mask finally slipped. Her posture changed, shoulders back, chin level. The timid servant evaporated like smoke. Petula speaks to her reflection in perfect, unaccented Korean. 2 more months, then he pays. Her voice was ice, her eyes were fire, and the woman staring back from that mirror was nobody's maid. Pae Soo-Ho thought he was hunting a mouse. He had no idea he'd invited a wolf into his home. The ambush happened on a Tuesday. 3 vehicles, 12 gunmen, perfect positioning. Soo-Ho survived by 30 seconds and pure instinct. His driver didn't. Soo-Ho storms into the mansion, suit jacket torn, blood spatter on his collar. Someone had leaked his route, the exact time, the exact street, the exact vulnerability in his security detail. In 20 years, this had never happened. His organization was airtight, loyal, terrified of betrayal, which meant the impossible had occurred. Someone on the inside had talked. Conference room. 4 lieutenants kneel on the floor. Soo-Ho circles them like a predator. He interrogated them one by one. No mercy, no hesitation, broken fingers, fractured ribs, the kind of persuasion that made men confess to crimes they didn't commit just to make it stop. But these men, they knew nothing. Their terror was genuine. Their ignorance was real. Blood pools on marble floor. Petula enters with cleaning supplies, eyes down. She arrived exactly on schedule, 11:15 p.m. The interrogation had ended 7 minutes prior. She stepped over the blood like it was spilled water. No pause, no gasp, no hand over mouth in shock. Soo-Ho watches her from across the room, his eyes narrow. Normal people flinch. They hesitate. They show some flicker of humanity when confronted with violence. Petula showed nothing, just quiet efficiency as she began mopping up evidence of what had transpired. She moves methodically around the room, approaching his desk where his pistol sits. And then she made the mistake, small, instinctive, fatal. Petula shifts the gun from the left side of the desk to the right without thinking. She moved his weapon to the tactical position, the position a trained operative would prefer, right-handed access. Clear sight lines to the door, optimal firing angle. It wasn't a maid's decision. It was a soldier's reflex. Soo-Ho's jaw tightens. He says nothing, but his mind is racing. He watched her finish cleaning, watched her bow slightly before leaving, watched the door close behind her with a soft click. Then he sat in absolute silence for 11 minutes. Late night, Soo-Ho alone in his office, reviewing security footage on multiple screens. He rewound 6 months of footage, watched her walk, studied her movements frame by frame, and there it was, hidden beneath the shuffle of a submissive servant, the gait of someone with military training, weight distributed perfectly, center of gravity controlled, each step measured, balanced, ready. Close up on his face, recognition, fury, fear. She didn't walk like a maid. She walked like someone who'd spent years moving through hostile territory, someone who'd been trained to kill. Soo-Ho picks up his encrypted phone, dials. The call connected on the second ring. His contact in intelligence owed him 3 favors. Tonight, he was collecting 1. Soo-Ho's voice, cold and precise. Run a background check on the American Maid. Everything. Real name, military records, CIA connections. I want to know who she was before she walked into my house. He paused, staring at her frozen image on the screen. And I want to know why she's really here. The woman he'd ignored for 3 months was suddenly the only person he could see. And what he was beginning to see terrified him. The background check arrived at dawn. 48 pages of absolute perfection. Birth certificate, social security number, employment history, tax returns, all immaculate, all verifiable, all completely fabricated. Soo-Ho studies the documents, his expression hardening. Real people have messy lives, traffic tickets, late payments, gaps in employment. Petula's records had none of that. They were the work of professionals, government-level professionals. Later, Soo-Ho stands in his office, speaking loudly in Korean on the phone. One-way mirror faces the hallway. Move the shipment tonight, Pier 17, midnight. He watched through the glass as Petula passed by with fresh linens. Her stride never changed, her posture never shifted, but her left eye, just for a fraction of a second, twitched. Close up on Soo-Ho's face, he saw it. She understood every word, the confirmation he needed. But understanding Korean was one thing. What she'd do with that information was another. Evening, Soo-Ho makes a show of leaving with his entire security team, shouting, urgency, crisis at the docks. The mansion stood empty, or so it appeared. Hidden cameras in every room, motion sensors on every door, audio recording devices in the walls. He'd turned his home into a surveillance trap, and Petula was the prey. Petula moves through the mansion, enters his study. She had the opportunity. His safe was accessible, his computer unlocked. Classified documents scattered across his desk like an invitation. Any operative would take it, should take it. Petula picks up a duster, begins cleaning, normally, methodically. She cleaned, just cleaned, dusted the shelves, straightened the chairs, watered the plants. For 23 minutes, she was exactly what she appeared to be, a maid doing her job. Then she stops, looks up, directly at the camera hidden in the bookshelf. A subtle smile crosses her lips. She knew, had always known, the smile wasn't mockery, it was a message. Cut to Soo-Ho watching the feed, his blood running cold. In that moment, Pae Soo-Ho understood. She wasn't playing his game, he was playing hers, and he had no idea what the rules were. The bullet came through the restaurant window at 9:43 p.m. High-velocity round, professional setup. If it had connected, Soo-Ho's head would have been gone before his bodyguards heard the shot. Glass explodes, chaos erupts, men diving, guns drawn, screaming. His security detail had 3 seconds to react. They needed 5. Soo-Ho was a dead man, except... Petula appears from nowhere, tackling him sideways behind a parked car. She'd been across the street, carrying groceries, playing her role. But the moment that window shattered, the maid vanished. What emerged was something else entirely. They hit the pavement hard. Second shot ricochets off metal inches from Soo-Ho's head. She'd already calculated the trajectory, knew the sniper's position before his bodyguards had even processed the threat. Her body covered his, angles optimized, protecting his center mass while maintaining her own mobility. Soo-Ho stares up at her, speaking in Korean through ragged breaths. "How did you?" But she cut him off, her voice returning to that broken English accent, trembling with fake fear. "Lucky reflexes, sir, just lucky." Except her hands told a different story. They were positioned in perfect Krav Maga stance, ready to strike, ready to kill, ready to move. Sirens in the distance, his blood on her uniform from where his shoulder scraped concrete. Their faces inches apart, both breathing hard. Neither moved. The chaos continued around them, his men returning fire, civilians screaming, tires screeching. But in that tiny space between the car and the curb, time stopped. He could feel her heartbeat against his chest. Steady, controlled, not the racing pulse of a terrified servant. Soo-Ho's lips near her ear, his voice barely a whisper. "You saved me." The words hung between them like a blade. Then, softer, more dangerous. "Why?" Petula's eyes meet his. For one unguarded second, he sees something real, something vulnerable. Then it's gone. She didn't answer, couldn't answer, because the truth was more complicated than either of them was ready to face. Back at the mansion, Soo-Ho didn't say thank you, didn't acknowledge what she'd done. He simply pointed to his study and walked. She followed. The door locked behind them with a finality that echoed through the empty hallway. Soo-Ho circles her slowly, predator assessing prey. "Who are you?" Not a question. A demand. 3 words that carried 20 years of survival instinct. Petula's face crumples into confusion, fear dancing across her features. "Sir, I don't understand. I saw the window break and The performance was flawless, trembling voice, wide eyes, clasped hands. Any other man would have believed her. Soo-Ho switches to Korean, his voice cold and clinical. He described every tactical decision she'd made, the angle of her tackle, the Krav Maga positioning, the way she'd calculated the sniper's location in under 2 seconds, military-grade training broken down into damning detail. Petula's face remains blank, but at her neck, a pulse hammers visibly. She didn't react to his words. Perfect discipline, perfect control, but her body betrayed her. That racing pulse, he saw it, cataloged it, knew. He draws his pistol slowly, places it on the table between them, steps back. He spoke in Korean, each word a test, a trap, a final confirmation. "If you understand me, pick it up. Defend yourself." 30 seconds of silence. She stood motionless, eyes on the weapon, hands at her sides. Then his hand slammed the table. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Petula didn't move, didn't gasp, didn't blink. Soo-Ho's eyes narrow, a predator's smile crossing his face. "Civilians flinch, soldiers don't." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "Last chance, who sent you?" The game was over, they both knew it. Now the only question was, what came next? The transformation happened in a heartbeat. Petula's shoulders rolled back, her spine straightened. The timid servant evaporated like morning mist, and what remained was a weapon disguised as a woman. She speaks in perfect, unaccented Korean. "The witness you discussed tonight, already dead. I handled it 2 hours ago." The same words that would haunt this room 6 months in the future, but tonight they were a confession, an execution, a revelation. Soo-Ho's face drains of color. 6 months, every phone call, every meeting, every order to kill, to smuggle, to destroy. She'd heard it all, understood it all, recorded it all. Petula's voice is clinical, factual, merciless. 347 conversations, 62 criminal transactions, 18 murders discussed in explicit detail. I have audio, video, documentation that would put you in prison for 12 consecutive life sentences. Soo-Ho's hand moves toward his gun. Then why haven't you destroyed me? His voice was steady, but his world was collapsing. Everything he'd built, every secret he'd protected, all of it compromised by a woman he'd never bothered to see. Petula turns, walks to the window. Stands with her back to him, the ultimate disrespect, or the ultimate trust. In Soo-Ho's world, turning your back on an armed man was suicide. But she did it anyway. Looked out at the Seoul skyline, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. Because the people who want you dead, they killed someone I loved. Her voice cracked just barely. The first real emotion he'd heard from her. 3 years ago, Seoul, a journalist investigating the Eurasian syndicate. They made it look like an accident. Silence, heavy, suffocating. Your enemies are my enemies. I've been protecting you. She turned to face him, and in her eyes he saw something he recognized. Something he understood, grief weaponized into purpose. She hadn't infiltrated his organization to destroy him. She'd infiltrated it to save him. And that changed everything. The truth spilled out like blood from a wound. Ex-military intelligence. Black ops. The kind of operator whose missions never made it into official records because officially they never existed. Petula's voice is steady, professional. The Eurasian syndicate has been planning your elimination for 18 months. They want your territory, your connections, your roots. I was sent to gather intelligence on their timeline. Instead, I found something else. Soo-Ho remained still, processing. Found what? His voice was dangerous. She met it with equal steel. That you were already dead. 6 assassination attempts in 6 months. The restaurant was number 7. I stopped all of them before they reached you. She paused. You've been living on borrowed time, my borrowed time. He circles the desk, each step measured. Why should I trust you now? The question hung between them like a blade. Petula reaches into her pocket, drops an encrypted phone on his desk. My handler, every report I've sent for 6 months, listen to them. Her eyes never left his. Every single one says the same thing, asset still secure, no action needed. Soo-Ho picks up the phone, scrolls through dates, dozens of reports. She'd been lying to her own people, protecting him from both sides, committing treason for a man she was supposed to be surveilling. He stands, steps forward. They're toe-to-toe, the air between them electric. You've seen everything, my weaknesses, my fears, every vulnerability I've spent 20 years hiding. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Why? Petula doesn't step back, doesn't break eye contact. And I stayed. 2 words, simple, devastating, complete. The moment stretched infinite, impossible, undeniable. Then the door exploded inward. His head of security, weapon drawn, face pale with panic. Boss, we have a breach. South perimeter, 20 hostiles. They're inside the grounds. The Eurasian syndicate had finally come, and this time there was nowhere left to run. 20 operators, military-grade weapons, thermal scopes, coordinated assault. Soo-Ho's security team was good. The syndicate was better. Gunfire erupts, windows shatter, men scream. His men were outgunned, outmaneuvered, outmatched. In 90 seconds, they'd all be dead. Then Petula's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. East Wing defenders fall back to the main hall. Create a choke point. Kill the lights. They're using thermal, force them into visual range. Commands delivered in rapid Korean. Tactical, precise, undeniable. Soo-Ho stares at her for exactly 2 seconds. Then he turned to his men and repeated her orders. No hesitation, no question. For the first time in 20 years, Pae Soo-Ho trusted someone else to lead. They moved through the mansion together, Petula and Soo-Ho, side by side. She fought like a surgeon, calculated shots, minimal movement, maximum efficiency. Every bullet had a purpose. Every action had been wargamed in her mind 3 moves ahead. Soo-Ho fights differently, raw, brutal, protective. He wasn't just defending his territory, he was defending her, staying between her and hostile angles, taking risks he'd never taken before. Muzzle flash in the darkness, a round streaks toward Petula's head. He moved without thinking, threw himself into the trajectory. The bullet tore through his shoulder instead of her skull. Petula's face transforms, genuine terror, raw and unguarded. For 6 months, she'd maintained perfect control, but watching him bleed for her shattered something fundamental. This wasn't operational. This wasn't strategic. This was personal. They retreat to his study, door barricades, 3 hostiles dead in the hallway. 13 rounds left between them, 27 seconds until breach. No backup, no escape route, no miracle coming. Petula meets his eyes, blood soaking through his shirt, her hand steady on her weapon. They'd survived 6 months of deception, but the next 60 seconds would determine if they'd survive the truth. The voice came through an external speaker, amplified, confident, already claiming victory. Pae Soo-Ho, send out the woman you have 60 seconds. The syndicate leader's offer was clear, simple, logical. Soo-Ho looks at Petula, raises his gun, points it directly at her chest. Her eyes widened, not with fear but with something worse, understanding, acceptance. She'd made the same calculation 1,000 times in her career, 1 life for mission success. It was always the right choice. 30 seconds of silence, his finger on the trigger. Then he fired 3 rounds, but not at her, through the window behind her, shattering the bulletproof glass into fragments. We go together or not at all. He grabbed her arm, pulled her toward the bookshelf. His hand found a hidden mechanism. The wall rotated. A tunnel, dark, ancient. She never knew it existed. They ran, his blood leaving a trail, her weapon covering their retreat. 50 meters underground before the mansion erupted in chaos behind them. They collapse in darkness, his breathing ragged, her hands already working on his shoulder wound. Why did you choose me over survival? Her voice was raw, confused, almost angry. Soo-Ho's laugh was bitter, pained, honest. I've survived 30 years, built an empire, eliminated every threat. I've never lived, not until. The explosion hit. Massive, deliberate, the mansion above them detonating. The shockwave rippled through stone and earth. The tunnel's ceiling cracked. Dust rained down, then chunks of concrete. Petula's eyes met his in the darkness. They'd escaped execution only to face burial. The tunnel was collapsing, and they were running out of time. Soo-Ho reached for her hand. If they were going to die, they'd die the way they'd chosen to live, together. The safe house was 60 kilometers outside Seoul. No electricity, no running water, no empire, just 2 people and 72 hours of forced truth. Petula works on his shoulder by candlelight, needle, thread, steady hands. For the first time they were equals. No mansion, no servants, no power structure, just a man bleeding and a woman who knew how to stop it. Her touch was gentle, professional, but something had shifted. The clinical distance was gone. Soo-Ho watches her face in the flickering light. Say something in Korean, your real voice, not a command, a request. She pauses, then speaks an old poem, words flowing like water. It was about loyalty, about sacrifice, about staying when leaving would be easier. Her accent was flawless, native, beautiful. His hand covers hers. She doesn't pull away. The silence between them held everything they couldn't say, shouldn't say, were terrified to say. Soo-Ho's voice drops, vulnerable in a way she's never heard. I recognized your accent the first day. Her eyes widened. You sounded like my mother. She was a survivor too, fled North Korea with nothing but will and rage. He paused. I knew you were dangerous from the beginning. Petula stares at him, processing. Then why the test? Why 6 months of games? Her voice carried hurt she didn't know she could feel. His thumb traces her knuckles. I needed to know if you'd stay when the mask came off. When you saw who I really was, not the boss, not the legend, just me. The moment stretched, infinite, impossible. Then her phone rang, the burner she'd hidden, her handler's voice cold and final. Extraction ready, coordinates attached, leave the asset, that's an order. Asset, not Soo-Ho, not the man whose hand was still covering hers. Asset, the word hung between them like a death sentence. Petula stood, walked to the window, phone pressed to her ear. Soo-Ho watched her shoulders tense as her handler spoke. Your original mission was termination, not surveillance. You were supposed to execute the target 6 months ago. Instead, you went rogue. Compromised the operation. This is your last chance to complete it. Her hand tightens on the phone. Soo-Ho hears every word. Assassination, not protection. She'd been sent to kill him. And instead, she'd saved him 7 times. She ends the call, turns, finds him standing despite the wound. His voice was quiet, devastated. Was any of it real? Petula's composure cracks. The mission was fake, everything else. She stopped, couldn't finish, because finishing meant admitting something that could destroy them both. Soo-Ho takes 1 step forward, weaponless, wounded, completely vulnerable. You have a gun, you have an escape route, you have orders. His eyes never left hers. What are you going to do? Petula looks at the phone in her hand, then at him, then back at the phone. 30 seconds, the longest 30 seconds of both their lives. She drops the phone, crushes it under her heel, pulls out the extraction coordinates, holds them over the candle flame. I choose the mission I gave myself. The paper caught, burned, became ash. Soo-Ho's voice was barely a whisper. Which was? She stepped toward him, close enough to touch, close enough to kill, close enough to save. Keeping you alive at any cost. Her hand found his face. Even if it costs me everything. She'd just committed treason, burned her entire career, chosen a criminal over her country, and she'd never been more certain of anything in her life. Pae Soo-Ho had built an empire on trust no one, but standing in that safe house, bleeding and broken, he finally understood. Trust wasn't weakness. It was the only thing worth having. Defense was over. Now came the reckoning, her strategy, his resources. A partnership forged in blood and built on something neither dared name. Montage, war room, maps, weapons, men training. She rebuilt his network from the ground up, taught his men proper tactical formations, communication protocols, counter-surveillance techniques. They'd been soldiers playing dress-up. She made them lethal. Soo-Ho watches from the doorway, a slight smile on his face. The power dynamic had shattered. What emerged was something unprecedented, equal respect, shared command, 2 leaders operating as one. War room, night, they lean over a map of the syndicate's compound. Their hands moved across the terrain, marking entry points, extraction routes. His finger traced the east wall, hers marked the guard rotations. Then their hands brushed, neither pulled away. Eye contact, loaded, electric, everything unsaid screaming between them. Kim, his most loyal lieutenant, leaned close, whispered, "Boss, you trust her completely now." Soo-Ho didn't hesitate, didn't look away from her. With my life, with my empire, a pause, with everything. The assault timeline, 32 hours. The night before the final strike, Petula stood on the rooftop. Seoul glittered below, a city that had no idea what was coming. Soo-Ho appeared beside her, silent, present. If we survive tomorrow, his voice carried the weight of possibility, of hope, of fear. She cut him off, her voice firm but not unkind. Don't, survival first, everything else after. Because admitting what came after meant acknowledging what they'd become, and that was too dangerous, too real. She turned to walk away. His hand shot out, caught her wrist. He pulled her back, slowly, deliberately, until they stood inches apart, souls sparkling beneath them, dawn 32 hours away. After tomorrow, everything changes. His voice was raw. But I need you to know, before we walk into that compound. He didn't finish, didn't need to, because she already knew, and so did he. Dawn broke over the syndicate compound. 32 hours had become 32 seconds, and then it began. Tactical teams breached simultaneously, controlled chaos, precise violence. They moved as one unit. Petula called coordinates. Soo-Ho executed. No hesitation, no doubt. Perfect synchronization born from perfect trust. Gunfire, smoke, bodies falling. Room by room, They dismantled an empire. The syndicate had spent 18 months planning Soo-Ho's death. He and Petula ended them in 18 minutes. Final room, syndicate leader, gun pressed to Soo-Ho's temple. Drop your weapon or he dies. The leader's voice was confident. He had the advantage. He had the shot. He had already won. Petula's eyes calculated. Impossible angle. Hostage situation. Zero margin for error. She fired, one round, through a 2-inch gap between Soo-Ho's head and the leader's gun hand. The bullet found its target. Perfect execution. Soo-Ho collapsed, not from a bullet, from relief. 3 hours later, the compound was secure. The syndicate was eliminated. Seoul's underworld had a new order, but the battle wasn't over. A black sedan arrives. Petula's handler steps out, arrest warrant in hand. Petula Hayes, you're under arrest for treason, desertion, and obstruction of justice. Her career, her freedom, her life all ending in handcuffs. Soo-Ho stepped forward, tablet in hand, smile on his face. Before you do that, you should see this. He turned the screen, video files, audio recordings, bank transactions. 6 months of your illegal orders, your corruption, your off-book assassinations. The handler's face went pale. She walks free, or this goes to every international court, every intelligence agency, every news network that will listen. Soo-Ho's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Your choice. 30 seconds of silence. The handler turned, left, the warrant crumpled on the ground. Petula was officially retired from service. Unofficially, she'd never been more free. Soo-Ho's office, rebuilt, restored. She stood before his desk, no longer in uniform. Stay, not as Maid, as, he struggled to find the word that encompassed everything she'd become. Petula tilted her head, a challenge in her eyes. As what? He stood, met her at the center of the room. Equals. As the only person I've ever trusted completely. Simple, honest, absolute. She reached up, straightened his tie, the gesture from months ago, but everything had changed. Then she spoke in perfect Korean, her real voice, no masks left between them. I accept, on one condition. Her hand remained on his chest. His response was immediate. Anything. Her eyes held his, unflinching, uncompromising. No more secrets. He took her hand, not to control, not to claim, but to partner. They didn't seal it with a kiss. That would come later. Instead, they sealed it with something more powerful, a shared understanding glance that said everything words couldn't. They walked together toward the window, sunrise painting Seoul gold. Her hand in his, partnership not possession, equals in power, equals in trust, equals in everything that mattered. He thought she was invisible. She thought he was irredeemable. They were both wrong. Empty Maid's uniform draped over a chair. Petula in tactical gear beside Soo-Ho at his desk. 2 leaders, 1 vision. Some partnerships are forged in fire, others, in perfect Korean. In a world built on deception, they'd found something rare, something dangerous, something worth fighting for. They'd found truth. And in Pae Soo-Ho's empire of shadows, truth was the most powerful weapon of all. Want to see their first mission together? Let me know in the comments. The maid who understood Korean, the boss who finally understood trust. This is where their story begins. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe for more stories that speak to the heart. Where in the world are you turning in from? Let me know in the comments so we can connect and share our thoughts. I appreciate the time you spent here with me today.